"You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you." What if those weren't just words of regret? What if, in that crucial moment on the mining planet Mapuzo, when master and apprentice faced each other for the first time since Mustafar, Obi-Wan made a choice that changed everything? Instead of igniting his lightsaber, what if the broken Jedi Master dropped his weapon and said the three words that could have saved the galaxy? "I forgive you." Today, we're diving into one of the most heart-wrenching what-ifs in Star Wars history. A story where love conquers hate, where a master refuses to give up on his fallen apprentice, and where a single moment of compassion fundamentally reshapes the Empire, the rebellion, and the very nature of the Force itself. Picture this scene 10 years after the fall of the Republic. Obi-Wan Kenobi, broken by guilt and living in exile on Tatooine, has been reluctantly drawn back into the galaxy's conflicts by Senator Bail Organa's plea. Young Princess Leia has been kidnapped and taken to the planet Mapuzo, where Imperial mining operations strip the world bare. The rescue mission has gone disastrously wrong. Obi-Wan, his connection to the Force still fragmented from years of self-imposed isolation, finds himself trapped on the industrial planet with Leia and sympathetic locals. But their escape route has been cut off, and Imperial forces are closing in. Then the worst possible scenario unfolds. Darth Vader himself arrives to personally oversee the capture of his former master. The confrontation takes place amid the smoke and fire of Mapuzo's industrial landscape. Mining equipment casts long shadows as master and apprentice face each other for the first time since Mustafar. Vader's breathing echoes through the complex like a mechanical heartbeat, while Obi-Wan stands before him, looking every one of his years in exile. This is the moment both men have dreaded and anticipated for a decade. Vader has spent 10 years perfecting his hatred, focusing it like a laser on the man he believes destroyed his life. Obi-Wan has spent those same years drowning in guilt, convincing himself that Anakin Skywalker is truly dead, and that he failed in the most fundamental way a master can fail. But as Vader ignites his crimson blade and prepares to finally claim his revenge, something unprecedented happens. Obi-Wan removes his lightsaber with trembling hands and places it deliberately on the scorched ground. The weapon that once belonged to a great Jedi Knight lies powerless between master and apprentice, reflecting the industrial fires burning around them. The psychological impact on Vader is immediate and devastating. For 10 years, he has built his existence around the narrative that Obi-Wan was a coward who abandoned him to die on Mustafar. These lies have sustained him through a decade of serving the Emperor, giving him justification to hunt down his former comrades and burn away every trace of the Jedi Order. But this moment of unexpected vulnerability creates something far more dangerous than any lightsaber duel ever could. It creates doubt, and in the rigid, fear-based structure of the Empire, doubt spreads like wildfire. To understand what happens next, we need to comprehend how Vader's psyche has been reconstructed since Mustafar. His entire existence depends on the complete destruction of Anakin Skywalker's identity. The process began when Palpatine rebuilt his broken body with cybernetic enhancements designed to cause constant, deliberate pain. Every breath reminds him of his defeat. Every step echoes with the memory of burning alive. But the physical reconstruction was nothing compared to the psychological conditioning. Through years of manipulation, meditation techniques borrowed from ancient Sith teachings, and deliberate cultivation of rage and hatred, the Emperor helped Vader convince himself that Anakin Skywalker was not just dead, but weak, naive, and deserving of destruction. Now, faced with Obi-Wan's unconditional offer of peace, that carefully constructed identity begins to crumble. Every suppressed memory floods back with overwhelming intensity, the way Tatooine's twin suns feel on your face during a desert sunrise, the sound of children laughing in Coruscant's lower levels, Ahsoka Tano, the spirited Padawan who became like a sister, the genuine friendship he shared with fellow Jedi Knights who saw past his unconventional background. But with good memories come crushing atrocities. The Jedi Temple burning as he led the 501st in their assault. The terrified faces of younglings who trusted him, even as his lightsaber fell. The methodical hunting of Jedi survivors across the galaxy, each one a former friend eliminated in service to the dark side. Entire worlds brought to heel through fear and violence. On distant Coruscant, the Emperor feels the disturbance with an intensity that makes him physically recoil. The carefully constructed psychological prison he has built around his apprentice's mind is showing cracks, and Palpatine realizes his greatest weapon may be slipping away just as his plans for galactic domination reach their culmination. The moment stretches into eternity as Master and fallen apprentice stand face to face amid Mapuzo's industrial wasteland. Obi-Wan doesn't speak of the Empire's crimes or the rebellion's cause. Instead, he speaks of a 9-year-old boy on Tatooine who risked his life in a pod race to help strangers he'd never met before. He speaks of a young Padawan whose unconventional thinking saved countless lives during the Clone Wars. He speaks of the man who married in secret because his love for Padme was too strong to be contained by Jedi doctrine. Obi-Wan's voice, roughened by years of desert exile and self-imposed silence, carries across the industrial complex like a prayer offered to the galaxy's dying hope. Obi-Wan tells Anakin about the dreams that have haunted him for 10 years of exile. Dreams where he found another way on Mustafar, where he saved his Padawan instead of leaving him to burn. Dreams where he was strong enough to reach through Anakin's rage to the frightened young man underneath. The broken Jedi's voice cracks as he admits his own failures, his own role in pushing his apprentice toward the dark side through rigid adherence to rules that valued order over compassion. This isn't just about Anakin's redemption. It's about Obi-Wan finally forgiving himself for what he sees as his greatest failure as a teacher and friend. For 10 years, he has hidden on Tatooine, convinced that his inability to save Anakin proved his unworthiness to be a Jedi. For the first time in a decade, Vader hears someone speak his true name with love instead of hatred. Not the clinical analysis of the Emperor discussing his apprentice's usefulness, but the way Padme used to say it during stolen moments between battles. The way his mother called to him across the endless Tatooine desert. The way Obi-Wan spoke it when Anakin was still his greatest source of pride instead of his deepest shame. The walls Vader has built begin to crumble as Obi-Wan shares memories only they possess. The time Anakin spent 3 days straight repairing life support systems on a damaged refugee ship, refusing to rest until every family aboard was safe. How he would sit with wounded soldiers in medical bays, offering comfort to men who had no one else to remember their sacrifices. But Obi-Wan also speaks of his own guilt and blindness. How he was so focused on being the perfect Jedi that he failed to see his Padawan's emotional struggles. How his inability to bend the rules when compassion demanded it left Anakin feeling isolated when he needed guidance most. How his own fear of attachment blinded him to the fact that love, not detachment, was Anakin's greatest strength. As Vader collapses under the emotional weight of his master's forgiveness and love, the Force itself seems to respond to this act of compassion. The oppressive darkness that has hung over Mapuzo since the Empire's occupation begins to lift, replaced by something that hasn't been felt on this world for years: hope. But redemption isn't a moment, it's a process that demands everything from those who choose it. As Vader kneels in the industrial dirt of Mapuzo, the full weight of what choosing the light means crashes down upon him. This isn't just about personal salvation. This is about confronting 10 years of systematic atrocities, about facing the reality that his actions have caused suffering on a galactic scale that can never be undone. The names of the dead don't just flow through his memory, they scream. Every Jedi he hunted down and killed in the Emperor's service. Every rebel cell he eliminated with ruthless efficiency. Every world that learned to fear the sound of his breathing apparatus announcing the Empire's judgment. The children on Alderaan who will die when the Death Star fires because he stood by and allowed it. How do you apologize for a decade of genocide? How do you seek forgiveness from the ghosts of an entire Jedi Order? These questions have no easy answers, and Vader realizes that choosing redemption might be the most selfish act of all, an attempt to ease his own torment. while the consequences of his choices echo through eternity. Obi-Wan sees the war raging in his former apprentice's soul and understands that this is the real battle they must fight. Not the lightsaber duel that could end in mutual destruction, but the struggle between accepting responsibility and drowning in despair. True redemption requires facing the full scope of one's crimes and choosing to build something better from the ashes. But even as Vader wrestles with the impossibility of atonement, something else happens. Through the Force, he becomes aware of Princess Leia's presence in the complex around them. This 10-year-old girl, brave enough to lead rescue missions and kind enough to trust strangers, represents everything pure and innocent that he has spent a decade destroying. She is Padmé's courage reborn, Anakin's hope given new form. In this moment, Vader faces the ultimate test of his claimed redemption. He could capture Leia, deliver her to the Emperor as proof of his continued loyalty, and ensure that his moment of weakness remains secret. He could return to the comfortable numbness of the dark side, where feelings don't matter and only power has meaning. Instead, he makes the choice that dooms him, not just to the Emperor's wrath, but to a life of carrying the full weight of his crimes without the dark side's promise of eventual victory. He reaches out through the Force, not to capture the princess, but to shield her from Imperial detection, to guide her and Obi-Wan to safety, to ensure that this small symbol of hope can escape to inspire others. This isn't heroism from Vader, it's the bare minimum of human decency from a man who has forgotten what that means. But it's also a first step on a path that offers no guarantee except deeper suffering. Because choosing the light doesn't erase 10 years of darkness. It doesn't bring back the dead Jedi or heal the Empire's victims. It simply means accepting the burden of trying to do better while living with the knowledge that better will never be enough. As Princess Leia and Obi-Wan make their escape from Mapuzo, Vader stands amid the industrial wreckage, knowing he has just signed his own death warrant. The Emperor will never forgive this betrayal. The Empire will never accept a reformed Sith Lord. The rebellion will never trust a man whose hands are stained with the blood of their martyrs. The galaxy doesn't need Darth Vader redeemed, but maybe, just maybe, it needs Anakin Skywalker to try, even if the trying destroys him in the end. With Vader's sudden change, allowing Princess Leia and Obi-Wan to escape Mapuzo, the galaxy enters uncharted territory. The rescue mission that was supposed to be a simple extraction becomes something far more significant. Proof that even the Empire's most feared enforcer can be reached by compassion and forgiveness. Princess Leia returns to Alderaan carrying something more valuable than any intelligence report. First-hand witness to Darth Vader's moment of humanity. This knowledge will fundamentally alter how the nascent rebellion views their enemy, shifting their strategy from pure military resistance to something that acknowledges the possibility of redemption even for those who have committed the gravest crimes. But redemption comes with a price few are prepared to pay. Vader's intimate knowledge of Imperial operations, his personal relationship with the Emperor's inner circle, and his detailed awareness of every atrocity planned in the Empire's name make him either the rebellion's greatest potential asset or their most dangerous liability. The question that will haunt the growing resistance is whether a man responsible for hunting down Jedi can ever truly be trusted. On worlds suffering under Imperial occupation, stories begin to spread of the day Darth Vader chose mercy over vengeance. Rebel cells that have operated in isolation find new recruits inspired by the possibility that even the Empire's greatest enforcer can change. If Vader himself can find redemption, perhaps there is a path to victory that doesn't require the complete destruction of Imperial infrastructure. On Coruscant, the Emperor's response transcends anything the galaxy has previously witnessed in terms of calculated malevolence. Palpatine has spent decades preparing for every conceivable threat, but the possibility that Darth Vader might choose love over hatred represents a failure of imagination that threatens to undermine the very foundations of Sith philosophy. In hidden facilities across the galaxy, dormant projects suddenly receive emergency activation codes. The Inquisitorius receives new orders that go far beyond their original mandate. Now they must eliminate anyone who ever knew Anakin Skywalker personally, former clone troopers who served under him, civilians he once saved, even Imperial officers who might remember his heroic deeds during the Republic's final years. The Emperor understands that Anakin's redemption depends not just on his own choices, but on the living memories that connect him to his past humanity. By systematically erasing every person who might remind Vader of who he used to be, Palpatine hopes to force his apprentice back into darkness through absolute isolation from his former self. But perhaps most ominously, deep in Imperial research facilities, ancient Sith artifacts begin to pulse with renewed energy as the Emperor draws upon power sources that predate the Republic itself. If he cannot maintain control through his apprentice's willing service, then he will ensure dominion through methods that make the Death Star look like a conventional weapon. The galaxy that emerges from this single moment of forgiveness on Mapuzo is unrecognizable, torn between competing visions of redemption and revenge. The Empire, shaken by evidence that its greatest enforcer can be turned by love rather than broken by hatred, begins to consume itself in paranoid purges. The growing rebellion offered tangible proof that their enemies are still human beneath their imperial conditioning, must decide whether their cause is truly about justice or simply destroying those who have oppressed them. 10 years before the Battle of Yavin, young Princess Leia returns to Alderaan, carrying not just the memory of her rescue, but the knowledge that forgiveness can reach even the darkest hearts. This lesson will shape her into a leader who seeks to heal the galaxy's wounds rather than simply winning its wars. But most ominously, the Emperor, denied his perfect weapon and faced with a galaxy where hope has been rekindled, begins to implement contingency plans that make his current tyranny look merciful by comparison. Ancient Sith knowledge emerges from forgotten vaults as Palpatine prepares to wage war, not just against the rebellion, but against the very concept of redemption itself. In a galaxy where love conquered hate on an industrial world that few will remember, the real question isn't whether Anakin Skywalker can be saved from the darkness. It's whether the galaxy itself can survive what the Emperor is willing to do to prevent that salvation. Because in this timeline, Palpatine doesn't just lose an apprentice, he loses his certainty that the dark side will always triumph over the light. The choices we make in moments of crisis don't just change our own destinies, they reshape the entire universe around us. And sometimes the most dangerous choice of all is choosing to forgive, because forgiveness demands that we believe in the possibility of redemption, even for those who seem irredeemably lost. If you've enjoyed this journey through an alternate Star Wars timeline, there are more untold stories waiting to be discovered. Join our growing community of Star Wars enthusiasts who believe in exploring these what-if moments that could have changed the galaxy far, far away. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and activate notifications to catch our next alternative Star Wars story. Each tale offers a new perspective on the characters we love and the choices that define them. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments below. What other pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga would you like to see explored differently? Your ideas might inspire our next adventure. May the Force be with you, always.